Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. The OPP is calling it an unimaginable tragedy as it investigates the deaths of a mother, father, and 2 young children in Harrow. Plus, as that heat dome sticks around, we take you to one of the coldest places to work as they help some of the hottest. And it's National Indigenous Peoples Day. Local residents gathered to celebrate history, heritage, and resiliency. There's shock and immense sadness in Harrow tonight. The OPP are investigating 4 deaths. A mother, father, and 2 young kids found dead in a rural home. The CBC's Dawson Chen has the latest.
Essex County OPP say they found 4 bodies on Thursday at this house on County Road 13 between Harrow and Cottam. Police have been sparse with details, only saying that there have been no arrests and there's no risk to the public.
What people really deserve is a thorough and professional investigation. So that's what we're going to do. And those investigations do take time. So I would ask people to be patient. Those answers, although they're not coming today, will come someday, and someday soon.
Forensics officers and a coroner have been on the scene through the night. Post-mortem examinations are taking place in London. An Essex County OPP spokesperson is asking the public for patience about updates. Details such as identities and circumstances have not been forthcoming, but the community is reeling. Essex Mayor Sherry Bondi says 2 children, a mother and a father, were the ones found deceased. She's describing the incident as a tragedy, deeply impacting local residents.
There are no words of relief, right? There's nothing I can say that's going to make anything better, and time doesn't even help something like this. Love your loved ones closer, that's kind of the what's circulating on social media. Hug your friends, hug your family, because you just never know. It could be somebody else next that you're friends with. So don't take anything for granted, and more importantly as well, be there for each other. Mental
health resources are being made available to the community, and flags in Essex and Harrow are flying at half-mast. There's also been talk of a possible candlelight vigil. OPP say their investigation continues, but there's no telling when more information will be made available. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
Windsor police say they've arrested a 53-year-old man linked to a series of home break-ins. This month alone, police have investigated at least 3 break-and-enters at West End homes. In each one of those cases, police say the residents were asleep when it happened. On Wednesday, the suspect was arrested and charged with several offenses, including break-and-enter and wearing a disguise with intent to commit a crime. Well, over the weekend, a Windsor woman's fully bloomed white hydrangeas were cut by city staff. The bushes have been growing beside her fence for the last decade. Now located on city property, she said wasn't being maintained.
I was horrified because I wanted to save what was left of the garden. I didn't want the rest of it destroyed too. Because it takes years and years for plants to come in if they do well at all. And so the garden was just full of butterflies all the time. It was just beautiful.
Fitzpatrick says this is the second time in recent years the city has chopped down those plants, leaving only sharp, broken stems poking out from the ground. But this time, the city says summer students accidentally cut down the bushes.
Moving forward, we're going to make sure that the staff, when attending this site, are well aware that, both in terms of what to whip and not whip, and that, although this is on city property, it's something that Ms. Fitzpatrick is taking care of because it abuts her property, and just to be cautious and really carry that forward no matter where they are. We don't want to see people ever, unintentionally destroying, wanted plant material. Hydrangeas are certainly very beautiful this time of year. They would have been just sort of finishing up their blooming. So it sounds like we've been able to resolve this situation going forward.
Today is National Indigenous Peoples Day, a day to honor history, heritage, and resiliency. For generations, many Indigenous groups and communities have celebrated their culture on June 21st because of the significance of the summer solstice as the longest day of the year. Our video producer Mike Evans was at the celebrations today at Micmac Park.
We want it to be very relaxing, very social, give people an opportunity to reconnect with family and friends that they might not have seen for a little bit. Just have kind of like one common meeting place and time, and so you don't have to worry about scheduling it. It's always going to be June 21st every year. So it's kind of like your your other family holidays, right? So that's, kind of why we put an emphasis on. This is a great venue for it.
And talk about where people are coming from today.
In addition to Windsor, some of us have different home communities. Mine would be Six Nations on Onyataog, but we have people here from the other side of that border. You have, the tail end of probably some students who, are always welcome to come to this event if they're, staying in Windsor over the summertime.
I've been trying to interview you for a few minutes now, but you've been too busy because you're giving out the food. Talk about some of the food that you guys have here today.
Well, we have a local caterer, Hobie, who always doing a really great job for us year in and year out. So this year we've got braised meat, wild rice, succotash. If you're a vegetarian, we have some grilled cauliflower steaks because some people just can't eat meat, right?
It looks like there's some vendors and some organizations that have set up here as well. Do you want to tell me a little bit about them?
Yeah, usually it's a lot of agencies that will come out to advertise kind of what their services are. They're doing outreach to the Indigenous community, letting them know this is the services that we provide either at the Scunthorpe Family Learning Center, the Aboriginal Child Resource Center. Kind of as an introduction, so you know that we're here, you know what services are available, and you can kind of meet the people, kind of do a soft introduction before you actually walk through the door.
For those in Amherstburg and surrounding areas, no, it wasn't thunder you heard and even felt this morning. It was this massive blast right across the river, this power plant in Trenton, Michigan, being demolished today in spectacular fashion. The plant's boiler was blown up today, and the plant's candy cane smokestacks were taken down back in March. Today's blast was the final stage of DTE Energy's planned demolition of the plant that opened up exactly 100 years ago. At its peak, the plant had 6 turbine generations and 13 coal-fired boilers. The plant was retired in 2022 and is being torn down in order to make room for redevelopment plans. Lots of us in Windsor-Essex are feeling the heat, especially if you work outside. But there's one workplace that is straight up chillin'. Big Beaver Ice in Oldcastle. It might be one of the coldest places to work, but they're trying to help some of the hottest, turning city water into bags of ice for the past 17 years. Windsor Morning host Amy Dodge went to check it out.
We're standing in ground zero of Big Beaver Ice. This is where all the excitement happens right here. This is where we take the city water, we make it into reverse osmosis, super pure, super clean water to make our ice the best it can possibly be.
How much ice are you making every day?
We're making about 7.5 tons of ice every day right now, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Now we're going into a bit of a heat wave. Is that good for business?
It's amazing for business, but it's also a stressful time of year because we have made commitments and demands are high on us, and we're going to make sure we deliver on every single one of them. The longer and the hotter it is, the more ice that's consumed, and there's a point in time where it's inevitable we will run out. It happened about 3 years ago during COVID. It hasn't happened in the last little bit. We're doing our best to make sure it doesn't happen, but anything's possible.
What happens if you do run out of ice?
Then we prioritize the #1 contracts that people need ice for. An example, we have ABM, which is the battery plant. We have Bridging North America. They have to have ice. They cannot stop those projects. Those projects have to be done. And without ice, those projects don't happen.
Tell me about that. How does ice play a role in these mega projects?
In Ontario, it's law that you have to keep your people hydrated and cooled, and they use the ice from Big Beaver to take care of that on site. There's several thousand workers at both locations, and it's up to us to make sure that's fulfilled.
So how much ice are you shipping out there every day?
In a week, it's thousands of bags to each location.
Colette Kennedy is off tonight. Chris Porter is filling in for her. Chris, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hot are we talking this weekend?
It's still going to remain hot, Meg, unfortunately. I mean, the heat dome has migrated. It's kind of isolating itself in southwestern Ontario. You look across the Kawarthas, eastern Ontario, even the GTA, a little bit cooler today. But then you take it back home, it's still on the hot side again. We're still in the high 20s to the low 30s. Sarnia is a little bit cooler thanks to a little bit of a lake breeze, as well as some organized rain starting to move on in, but the humidity obviously plays a huge role as well. Still feeling like the 40s, and unfortunately that's likely not going to change as we head into the day tomorrow. So the heat warning still remains in place, and I'm thinking it will last not only tonight, tomorrow, but into Sunday as well, because there's not going to be a big time drop in those temperatures. Organized wet weather, yeah, it's starting to move in from lower Michigan. We will start to see that migrate towards the Lake Huron shoreline. I don't think it's going to move in towards Windsor or Chatham-Kent. It will move off towards the east as we get through the overnight. It does look like another area of rainfall will start to take shape through the day on Saturday, but it's not focusing its attention on southwestern Ontario. It's going to remain in place across the upper Great Lakes, scoot over through the Kawarthas into eastern Ontario, and that's going to be a heavy area of rainfall just in case that's where you're headed for this weekend. In terms of the forecast for Sunday, maybe a couple of spotty showers in the morning, and then we start to clear back out for the afternoon. In terms of the overnight temperatures, still quite hot. Temperatures in the low 20s for the most part, still going to feel almost like 30, and the winds will be light. As we get into the day tomorrow, I don't foresee it being widespread. It's a low risk for showers across Windsor and Chatham and surrounding areas, but it does look like a few showers, maybe the odd thunderstorm will move in to Sarnia and Lords, London. In terms of your forecast, so stepping through, as I mentioned, the heat's still there. It still looks like highs near 33 to 34 in Windsor area. It's still going to feel probably like the mid 40s. So once again, the heat warning remains in place. Stay hydrated. And obviously, you know your body better than anyone. So if you start to feel fatigued, a little nauseous, you're excessively sweating, obviously the best place to go is indoors. And then we dry out Sunday afternoon, mostly just a spotty shower mag for the morning. And then we're dry for Monday, Tuesday, climbing back up towards Thursday, and then maybe some showers for Wednesday. But Meg, I got to ask you, are you a fan of the heat?
Oh, yeah, I'm a big heat girl. I'm like a little reptile, like a little lizard. I've said this to Colette before. I don't want to say this is my prime weather, but I'm kind of enjoying this.
I myself hate the heat.
Yeah.
Because you can feel it as soon as you step outside. So it's not just the heat, it's the humidity. When you open your door from a nice air-conditioned building and you go, oh, it's a wall of heat hitting me. And obviously with that kind of heat, sometimes you get into severe weather. Like I mentioned, although Windsor didn't see it this afternoon, a lot of areas across the GTA reported some localized flooding because of heavy downpours. So luckily, Windsor area stayed out of that today.
I think no matter what, it's going to be a big swimming weekend, Chris.
Yeah.
Big swimming weekend. Thanks so much for that, Chris.
No worries. Thanks.
That's Chris Potter filling in for Colette Kennedy tonight. Well, it's Fishfly Friday. For the past week, CBC Windsor has been asking for your grossest, most stomach-turning photos of the little insects. And tonight, we're going to air some of the shots that you've sent us already. So this photo here was taken by Mauricio Mathis at the mall in Leamington last week. Those fish flies really stand out against that white wall. This beauty sent in by Darlene Tompkins, who took this on the corner of Simcoe and Pacific Street in Amherstburg last week. Actually looks like there's fur on that light post there. She told us they chose to walk around. And okay, this photo is less stomach turning. Jen Gatehouse actually making this fish fly look like a beauty queen on that purple petunia. This was taken this past week at Seacliff Drive in Leamington. Now, like all news stories, we want to remain unbiased here. So although for most people there's a major ick factor associated with fish flies, there are some major fans, and we found arguably one of the biggest. A PhD student at the University of Windsor in the environmental science program has dedicated years of research to the insects. Her license plate even says mayfly.
It started when I was a kid. I wanted to be an environmental scientist. It was after the mayflies had returned from being nearly extirpated from the area, and I just thought that it was the coolest thing ever and kind of a beacon of hope for me in a way. So I was obsessed with them since I was small. I find them very cute in their own way. Like, they don't have mouths. They're just kind of goofy, bug-eyed creatures. They're very gentle. I would describe them as being just a little bit of gentle chaos around us.
We're in this heat dome. In what ways could that impact the fish flies?
So their emergence from the water depends on temperature. A lot of it depends on temperature. So we might just start seeing earlier emergence than we would have in prior years or cooler years. They're often an indicator of good water quality conditions, but also good sediment quality, because they do live in the sediments when they're small. So they are a symbol of hope for me and perseverance, and to just never give up on something that matters to you. So
even if you are slightly annoying, don't give up.
Absolutely. And even if you're a little gross and you annoy the neighbors, keep doing the right thing. So
You matter.
absolutely.
Well, if you want to enter into our Fishfly photo competition, please send your wildest images to Windsor at cbc.ca with the subject line Fishfly Photos. And tell us your name, where and when the photo was taken, and any other information you think we should know. Members of the CBC Windsor team will vote on our favorite photos. The winner will take home some CBC merch. The deadline for submissions is June 28th. That's next Friday. Well, it's Friday and a beautiful sunny one at that. Coming up, Josiah Sinanen is here for his Week's End segment. Stay tuned. It's time now for Week's End with Josiah Sinanen. And Josiah, today is National Indigenous Peoples Day, and I understand that there's a nice event if you want to show your support.
Yeah, absolutely. So Meg, today I'm going to take you to Art Windsor-Essex for a fantastic exhibit I got to see a bit earlier this morning. It's a celebration of the Indigenous women and Two-Spirit people that live in our area. And by our area, I mean Wawi-Atanong. That is the name given to the area we're in right now by Indigenous peoples, and it surpasses borders. This includes Detroit and Windsor, and it means where the river bends.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about this exhibit.
Yeah, so it's called Wawiatanong Forever, and it's an Indigenous community-led project, a collection of portraits of women and Two-Spirit people in the area. Each one is different and has completely different captures and poses. And all of these participants were placed and selected by Two-Spirit coordinator Shane Lyon. And these are all people in our community, Meg. And according to curator Julie Ray Tucker, who I spoke to this morning, this came out of the thinking of how we can fight the erasure of Indigenous people in this land. Specifically celebrating women and Two-Spirit was important. And Julie told me these are some of the hardest working and most significant contributors to what makes living here so special.
Josiah, those are beautiful photos. Can you tell me more about the photographers behind them?
Yeah, absolutely. So her name is Cheyenne Nolan, and she is based in our area. She's an Anishinaabe photographer, and she got to spend time with all of these subjects over the course of a year. So she tells me that she learned so much about Wawiatanong by hearing from them. Here she is with a bit more.
So the name of this exhibit is Wawiatanong Forever because we are still here and we will still be here forever. So we have a bunch of Indigenous participants that live in Wawiatanong paired up with street signs that match their nation or significant places along the riverfront. And come in, you can see all of this.
So Meg, I'm not sure if you caught that, but these photos have a really cool feature. The street signs that feature names of nations are matched to the women and Two-Spirit people photographed. So it really gives you a chance to learn about the diversity that exists within this area of the world.
So what do we need to know if we want to check this out?
Yeah, so this exhibit is on at Art Windsor-Essex until September 22nd. So you have a lot of time to stop by and see it, and I would highly recommend it. It's a great way to get to know some of the Indigenous women and Two-Spirit people in our area. And in the meantime, you can check out some more photos and hear my interviews with Julie Ray and Cheyenne on the CBC Windsor website.
Well, thanks so much for that, Josiah. I hope you stay cool this weekend.
You as well, Meg.
It might be
cool and
tough.
stay away from the fish flies.
Yeah,
Good
I'll
luck.
try to. There have long been reports of hybrid bears in the Northwest Territories, a mix between a grizzly and a polar bear. We have that story coming up. An old rail bridge in Richmond, BC caught fire overnight, sending black smoke billowing above the area south of Vancouver. The fire began in an industrial building and spread to the bridge. As of this morning, the fire was mostly extinguished, but crews remained on the scene to watch for and douse hotspots. Firefighters say the thick plumes of smoke were likely caused by a wood tar preservative on the bridge. Officials don't yet know the cause of the fire. There are no reports of any injuries. There have long been reports of hybrid bears in the Northwest Territories, a mix between a grizzly and a polar bear. A new study shows these unique creatures are rare and confirms they're all descendants of one female polar bear. CBC's Leanie Lambrink explains.
These two bears are both hybrids. This one here, 50% polar bear, 50% grizzly bear. This one here, 75% grizzly, 25% polar bear. We spoke to a federal scientist who actually saw this one alive 10 years ago while flying over northern Victoria Island.
I've seen thousands of polar bears in the field, but when we turned that corner into that bay and saw this kind of creamy colored polar bear with 3 little chocolate cubs, it just, you almost had to like rub your eyes to make sure you were seeing what you were seeing.
We don't have photos of that moment, but Richardson is confident the bear in this photo is the mom he would later see with her cubs. Scientists are using a new genetic sequencing tool to test bears for hybridization. They tested samples from 341 polar bears and 440 grizzly bears from across Canada, Alaska, and Greenland. The only hybrid bears they found in all of those samples, a family of 8 bears in the Western Arctic, which they already knew about, a family that these two belong to. It was a bit of a surprise. Scientists thought they would find more.
The Western Canadian Arctic is one of the only places where we see grizzly bears crossing into polar bear habitat frequently. It does happen in other places, but it's really much more common in the Western Arctic. And so this is the place where we're thinking we're most likely to see hybridization happening. And the fact that we don't see it happening is a good indication that it's pretty rare.
Those 8 bears are also all part of the same family. A biologist who used to work for the NWT government wrote about them in 2017 and developed a family tree.
All these hybrid bears originated from one single female polar bear who mated with 2 different grizzly bears. And then those grizzly bears mated with the offspring, and kind of that's how we ended up with some of the second generation hybrid bears. So it just seems to be this, tightly closed group of bears that sort of seem to have, just for whatever reason, had a preference for something a little different.
The family tree and the corresponding tag numbers are how we know that these bears here at Nature's North Wildlife Gallery in Yellowknife are part of that family. According to NWT government data, this bear's 2 siblings haven't been hunted. If they're alive, they'd be 10 years old. Leanie Lambrink, CBC News, Yellowknife.
In a tradition that dates back thousands of years, crowds gathered to greet the sun and welcome the summer solstice at Stonehenge. The prehistoric circle of megalithic stones draws revelers for both the longest and shortest days of the year. One estimate put this morning's crowd at 15,000 people. A live stream of yesterday's sunset and today's sunrise drew 200,000 viewers around the world. The popular landmark aligns with the sunrise on the first day of summer and the sunset on the first day of winter. Stonehenge is believed to be about 5,000 years old and is thought to have originally been a burial ground. Well, while much of eastern Canada has been experiencing a heat wave, so have our neighbors south of the border. And it's not just people who are sweltering. Zookeepers in York, Maine have been helping animals cool down with icy treats. Yesterday, they gave some of the animals snacks of fruit encased in ice. Others, like Moxie the tiger, got something a little bigger. This is a chicken pop, a large piece of ice with raw chicken inside. Temperatures in the region climbed to what felt like 43 degrees Celsius. The animals are getting some relief today with the temperature hitting around 23 degrees. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. You can also download the CBC News app for stories that matter most to you. Don't forget to watch The National tonight at 9 on CBC News Network, 10 p.m. on the CBC News app, CBC TV, and streaming on CBC Gem and CBC Explore. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here next week.